The Department of World Languages and Cultures at Georgia State University presents Arabic 1001 Grammar. In this third part of the course, we are addressing simple sentences. In this lesson, we will talk about the nominal sentence, or al-jumla al-ismiya in Arabic, and in this first part of the lesson, we will talk about subject and predicate. This lesson has several goals: to learn how to distinguish a sentence from a phrase, which is difficult in Arabic because of the lack of capital letters, to learn how to find the point where the sentence becomes indefinite, to learn the names for the two parts of a simple sentence, to learn how to use a pronoun to separate definite halves of sentences, to learn the patterns for this is a noun, this is the noun, and this noun, and to continue to understand the roots and patterns of Arabic words. Let's begin with some very simple examples. We remember this from the first lesson. Hadha kitab means this is a book. We don't have an is or an a in Arabic, so we have to infer that they're there. And the subject of this lesson is to teach you when and whether to infer those things. And at the risk of giving away the whole lesson right away, the trick is when you go from definite to indefinite, you put in an is or an are or an am, and sometimes an a as well. The words we call demonstratives, hadha and hadahi and their friends, always count as definite in Arabic. So here we have gone from definite to indefinite by going from hadha to kitab, and that tells us that we have a sentence. It's not this book, it's this is a book. This is a little challenging to pick up at first, but you'll get it fairly quickly. We can make it a little more complicated. We could say al-kitab jayyid. Al-kitab is the book, jayyid is good. This means the book is good. There's no is here, but we know it's a sentence because al-kitab is definite and jayyid is indefinite. So we go from definite to indefinite, we have a sentence. The book is good. If it were the good book, we would put alif lam on jayyid. Here's a piece of paper. Hadahi waraqa. This is a page. We've gone from definite, because hadha and hadahi are always definite, to indefinite. Waraqa is indefinite. So this a page means this is a page. We've gone from definite to indefinite, so we have a sentence. We can say al-waraqa bayda. Again, here we go from definite al-waraqa to indefinite bayda, white, or in this case blank. So this means the page is white, or what we really mean is the page is blank. So once again, from definite to indefinite makes a sentence. Where we go from definite to indefinite is where the is, am, or are goes. This works with people as well as objects. We can say tilka muhandasa. Tilka is like hadha and hadahi. It's definite by definition. And then we go to the indefinite word muhandasa, engineer. So we mean that is an engineer. Now let's describe her. We can say al-muhandasa mujtahida. Mujtahid means hard-working. Al-muhandasa is definite. Mujtahida is indefinite. So we've gone from definite to indefinite, and therefore we have a sentence. The engineer is hard-working. Let's look at this fellow. We can say dhalik shab. Dhalik, like hadha and hadahi and tilka, is definite by definition. Shab is indefinite, so we know that this is a sentence. That is a guy. We can say ashab tawil. Again, ashab is definite because of alif lam. Tawil is indefinite. So we know we have a sentence here, and we put the is in between them. The guy is tall. This is very simple, but it can also get really complex, and the lack of capital letters in Arabic makes it a bit of a problem sometimes. So let's get the basics down very carefully, and then we'll move on to more complex things. We can use a three-word sentence. We could say hadha kitab jamil. So our question is, first of all, is this a sentence? And our answer is yes, because we go from definite, hadha is definite, and then kitab is indefinite. And we know that's where we put the is here. Kitab and jamil are both indefinite, so together they make a phrase. So our answer is, this is a beautiful book. The is goes between hadha and kitab. We can say al-kitab al-jamil jayyid. Al-kitab and al-jamil are both definite by virtue of having alif lam, but then jayyid is indefinite. So we know this is a sentence because it goes from definite to indefinite, and that's where we put the is. So now we have the beautiful book is good. Let's look at the page. We can say hadahi waraqa saghira, where we go from hadahi, which is definite by definition, and then waraqa is indefinite, and then saghira agrees completely with waraqa. Waraqa saghira means a small page. When we put hadihi before it, it turns into a sentence, and now we have this is a small page. We can say al-waraqa as-saghira bayda. Al-waraqa and as-saghira are both definite, but bayda is indefinite. So we know that this is a sentence and that the is goes between saghira and bayda. This means the small page is white, or really the small page is blank. In Arabic, one of the two major types of sentences is called the nominal sentence, or al-jumla al-ismiya. You'll recognize the word ism from name. Al-jumla is the name for a sentence. So al-jumla al-ismiya, the name sentence, or the nominal sentence in English. A nominal sentence is one that begins with a definite noun. There are a bunch of exceptions to this, but let's take this definition for right now because it's the easiest one. It has two parts, a mubtada, or starting point. You may have already learned the word al-akhbar for the news. Khabar is the singular of akhbar. In its simplest form, the sentence changes from subject to predicate when it goes from definite to indefinite. We can say, at-talib dhaki, where at-talib is definite, dhaki is indefinite, so we know that's the dividing point for the sentence and where we put the is, am, or are. So the student is smart. Hadha and hadhihi and all their friends are definite. Taliba is indefinite, so we say hadhihi taliba. This is a student. We can say at-taliba al-yamaniya dhakiya. The first two words are definite. That's easy to tell because of alif lam. The last word is indefinite, so we divide it in between the second and third word and say the Yemeni student is smart. Pronouns, huwa is one of them. Huwa here means he. It can also mean it. Are also definite by definition. So huwa is definite, and then talib and Yemeni are indefinite. So we know that the is goes between huwa and talib. He is a Yemeni student. Hiya, like huwa, is definite by definition because it's a pronoun. Muhandasa is indefinite, so this is a sentence. We go from definite to indefinite and say she is an engineer. But what if we want to say she is the engineer? We can say al-muhandasa mujtahida, and we go from definite to indefinite, so we know that this means the engineer is hardworking. We look at this fellow again, we can say Ashab Omani. So Oman is the name of the country, and Omani is its adjective, so the guy is Omani. If we say Ashab al-Omani at-tawil, wait a second, we never got to indefinite. All three of these words are definite. We can see from the alif lam on them. So what we know is that this is not a sentence. It's what we call an ism sifa, a noun adjective, or a phrase. If it were a sentence, it would go from definite to indefinite. But it never goes to indefinite here, and that's how we know it's a phrase and not a sentence. And this means the tall Omani guy. So let's talk about the subject. In Arabic, we call it al-mubtada, the starting point. The mubtada is always mu'arraf, or definite, in simple sentences. Later we will see that there are some exceptions to this, but let's not worry about it right now. Pronouns are definite, so are the demonstratives, or this, that, these, and those words. Where the mubtada ends is where you put the is, are, or am in the English sentence. So once again, we have the same examples here. Hadihi is definite, taliba is indefinite. So we know this is a sentence, and we put the is between them. Huwa is definite, talib is indefinite. So we know this is a sentence and we put the is between them. Hadha and at-talib, oh wait, hang on, they're both definite. It's not a sentence because we never go from definite to indefinite, and therefore this is a phrase, not a sentence, so we say this student. In the last example, hadha is definite because it's a demonstrative, and at-talib and ad-dhaki are both definite as well. So this isn't a sentence either. It's a phrase. So this means this smart student. Let's take a look at some other examples. We can say hadha al-kitab jamil. So here hadha, because it's hadha, is definite. Al-kitab, because it has alif lam, is definite. But jamil is indefinite. So here we're going to put the is, am, are in between the second and third word. And this is going to become this book is beautiful. Now we can do something we often do in the second half of the sentence, which is use a prepositional phrase. A preposition is a word that describes the relationship of two or more nouns in time or space. So here we have al-kitab ala al-maktab. So ala is a preposition, and it means against or on top of. And it's very common to start the khabar, or second half, or predicate of the sentence with a preposition. So when we see al-kitab, it's definite, and then we have a preposition. It isn't really a noun, so we can't say whether it's definite or indefinite. So you need to know your basic prepositions and look out for them, because they're often the signal that you've moved from one half of the sentence to the other. In English, we have this helpful little word is, but in Arabic, we don't typically use it. We'd say the book on the desk, but what we really mean is the book is on the desk. We can look at this fellow again, and we can say, Hada ashab talib. Is this a sentence? Can you tell? And the answer is yes, it is, because hada is definite, ashab is definite, but talib is indefinite. So we're going to break the sentence into two halves between ashab and talib, and we're going to say, this guy is a student. Another common way of beginning the second half of the sentence is to use a verb. Yadrus is a verb. He studies. We haven't touched on verbs in this series of lessons yet, and we're not going to for a little while, but you should probably be able to sort of recognize present tense verbs so far. Ashab, the guy. Yadrus, he studies. At-tijara, business or commerce. And this translates into English fairly easily. The guy studies business. The second half of the sentence, the khabar, often begins with a verb, often begins with a preposition, often begins with an indefinite noun or adjective. You can see all four examples here on this slide. So let's look at the predicate or khabar. Predicate is a word that most English speakers probably don't understand very well, but al-khabar, the piece of news, that's very easy. It can take several forms. The most common are a noun, an adjective, a prepositional phrase, and a verb or verb phrase. I should note that a noun or an adjective usually means an indefinite noun or adjective. If the khabar is a noun or adjective, it must be indefinite. If we want to make it definite, we have to do something special to it, which I'll explain in a moment. So take a look at these sentences and phrases. Hadihi is definite by definition. Toliba is indefinite, so we know that this is a sentence, and the is goes between hadihi and toliba. Maghreb is Morocco, so hadihi toliba maghrebiya, this is a Moroccan student. So in that example, we're using an indefinite adjective as the khabar. In the second one, we're going to say at-talib maghrebi. The student is Moroccan, so again, another indefinite adjective. Then we're going to say at-taliba fil bayt. Fi is a very common preposition, in or at or within. Al-bayt, the house. At-taliba is the mubtada or subject of the sentence. Fil bayt is the predicate. Notice that we run the preposition together with the alif lam in al-bayt. So we don't say fi al-bayt, we say fil bayt. And this means the student is at home, in the house, literally. And in the final example, we have at-talib yaqra'u, where yaqra is a verb, he reads. So this could be the student reads or the student is reading. Arabic doesn't really differentiate between the two, so don't worry about it. Here's our book again, Hada al-kitab jamil. And this means this book is beautiful. Hada and al-kitab are definite. Jamil is indefinite, so we split the sentence between kitab and jamil and add is there. If we're going to make them plural, all the same rules are going to apply as far as sentence formation, but we're going to have to keep in mind that non-human plural is treated as if it were feminine singular. So hada is going to have to change to hadihi, al-kitab is going to change to its plural, al-kutub, and because kutub has become non-human plural, it has magically transformed into feminine singular, so we have to say jamila instead of jamil, and then we have these books are beautiful. Remember, books, like animals and any other non-human object, can't truly be plural. They have to shift to feminine singular. Here's our page. Hadihi waraqa saghira. This is a small page. If we make them plural, then hadihi stays hadihi, because waraqa was feminine singular in the first place. So when it becomes non-human plural, it stays feminine singular. Its plural is awraq. But saghira stays the same because, again, it has remained feminine singular by virtue of being non-human plural. If we look at our engineer, we can say al-mar'a muhandasa. Al-mar'a is definite because of alif lam. Muhandasa is indefinite, so we know that this is a sentence. The woman is an engineer. But what if we want to say the woman is the engineer? If we say al-mar'a al-muhandasa, it doesn't make any sense because it's not a sentence. They're both definite. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the pronoun in between the two of them. Al-mar'a hiya al-muhandasa. Hiya is our pronoun for she, or non-human it, or non-human plural they, but of course we mean she here. So al-mar'a hiya al-muhandasa. The woman is the engineer. This is our way of making it clear that this is a sentence, and the hiya is here to separate the subject and predicate, or mubtada and khabar, of the sentence. So the hiya is here to tell you that this is a sentence, even though both words are definite. So al-mar'a hiya al-muhandasa means the woman is the engineer. It works the same way with male people. Ashab talib, the guy is a student. But if we want to make him the student, we have to say ashab huwa at-talib. So now we have said the guy, he is the student. And this is our way of getting across the guy is the student. Very simple, really, but a little bit confusing at first. So this is called Damir al-Fasl, the Pronoun of Separation, an excellent title for a grammatical romance novel. Sometimes you want the khabar to begin with alif lam for whatever reason. Your words won't become indefinite, so they won't become a sentence. And therefore, between the mubtada and the khabar, we need to add the third person pronoun that agrees with the subject, and this makes it a sentence. Al-fatat taliba, we have definite, indefinite, and therefore a sentence. The gal is a student. Al-fatat hiya at-taliba, the gal is the student. We've made at-taliba definite, and then to turn it back into a sentence, we put hiya, she, in between the two of them. Same thing with a masculine example. Ar-rajul ustad, the man is a professor, but if we want to make him the professor, we put alif lam on ustad and make it al-ustad, and then put the pronoun huwa in between the two of them because it agrees with ar-rajul. So the man is the professor. So let's put all three patterns on one slide for masculine and feminine to make it easier for you. We can say hada kitab. Hada is definite, kitab is indefinite. We know this is a sentence and it means this is a book. We can say hadal kitab, and we never went from definite to indefinite here. They're both definite. So this is not a sentence, it's a phrase. It means this book. But if we put huwa between the two of them, we say hada huwa al-kitab. Now it becomes a sentence again. The huwa is separating the mubtada and khabar, and this means this is the book. So it would greatly behoove you to memorize this particular pattern. It's a little counterintuitive from an English speaker's point of view, but it's very fundamental to Arabic, and once you memorize it, you won't have any problems with it. It works the same way for feminine objects, or for that matter, female people. Hadahi waraka, definite to indefinite, so it's a sentence. This is a page. Hadahil waraka, definite, definite, not a sentence, it's a phrase, and that means this page. Hadihi hiya al waraka, we have put the pronoun hiya to agree with hadihi in between the two of them to separate them and make it clear that this is a sentence and means this is the page. It would probably greatly benefit you to screenshot this particular slide and learn the pattern. And then just to be clear, we have our subject pronouns, so you have them all on the same page. These 8 are the ones we commonly use in first year Arabic. Ana for I, it looks like ana, but it's ana. Anta and anti for you boy and you girl. Huwa can mean he, or it can mean it for a non-human masculine object. Hiya can mean she for a female person. It can mean it for a feminine object, and it can mean they for non-human plural. Nahnu is we, antum is y'all or human plural you, hum is human plural they, not for objects, only for people. Here we have the much lesser used dual and feminine only versions of you and they. These are here for completeness only. We don't typically use them in first year Arabic. And then the grammatical terms al-mubtada, the starting point or subject, and al-khabar, the piece of news or predicate. And now that you know the basics of the difference between subject and predicate and between sentence and phrase, we're going to start making things more complicated, but they will continue to adhere to this rule that when you go from definite to indefinite, you have a sentence, and that's where you put the is, am, or are.